Hi, Ashley. Thank you for joining us online. Can you hear me? Hi, Sheriff Balaam. Can you hear me? Hi, Sarah. Hi, Liz. Can you hear me?
Yep. Sylvia, can they only hear you? Oh, okay. They can hear everybody. Okay. Okay, great. Um, it is 2:01. Let's call this meeting to order. Sylvia, do you mind doing roll call?
Darren Balaam.
Present.
Charlene Bybee. Ashley Daftery. Jessica Goicochea Perez. Or Priest, sorry. Elizabeth Flores. Mackenzie Winklemeyer. Leanne McCauley. Arisha Mudin.
Here.
Jorge Montano Figueroa.
Present.
Sarah Porter. Natalie Sanchez,
Here.
Paige Samples, Chris Smith,
Present.
Misty Von Allen will be absent today, and Annie Zucker.
Present.
You have quorum.
Great, thank you. Just as a quick note to the commissioners, we are not able to hear the folks online, but Sylvia can, so there might be a bit of a delay as Sylvia lets us know when folks online speak up, so just so we know. All right, on to item 1.03, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. Do I have any volunteers? Excellent, Annie, thanks. Thank you. Before we move on to item 2.01, I just want to acknowledge Mackenzie Winkelmeyer and joining our commission. So a warm welcome. Thanks for being here. Great. On to item 2.01, approval of the minutes from February 3rd, 2025. I'm looking for a motion. Oh, and is there any public comment, Sylvia?
No public comment.
Great, thanks.
Motion to approve.
We've got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
Great.
There's public comment on this item. Can you clarify?
I'm sorry, is there public comment on this item on the minutes from last time? Oh, okay, okay, great. Yeah, thank you. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, the motion passes. On to item 2.02. This is a presentation to update this commission on a meeting with the Board of Trustees on March 11th on Board Policy 5250, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Controlled Substances Prevention and Intervention. This is presented by Dr. Lamarca and myself, and Annie Zucker was also in attendance with us.
Thank you, Chairperson Sanchez and members of the Commission. For the record, Paul Lamarca, Chief Student Services Officer. And as Natalie just mentioned, on March 11th, we were on the agenda for the Board of Trustees to bring to them the proposed revision to Board Policy 5250, which deals with substance use prevention. As you know, your commission provided some recommendations regarding what we should do regarding substance use prevention, including revision of that particular policy. So it was a bit anticlimactic, partly because of the structure of board policies. So board policies are meant to be very broad, and you'll see what I mean when we get into it. In terms of revisions, well, let me back up. Or go forward. Tomorrow, the Board of Trustees will hear the second item on Board Policy 5250. What happens with the Board of Trustees is you introduce the proposed changes. If they approve them, it goes out to a 13-day or longer review by the public. And then, depending on the kinds of comments that come in, there may be changes, and then there's a second workshop with the Board of Trustees, and at that time they can approve it, or again, they can send it back for change. So that occurred. There were no public comments. So I anticipate that it will be approved by the Board of Trustees tomorrow, but I don't know that for sure. It is on their consent agenda item, or on their consent agenda. If for some reason something happened, we would let you know right away. In terms of the changes, there were several changes that were made in and you have the attached policy sort of in its cleaned up version in your packet. In the introduction or in the purpose statement, there is more explicit reference to the negative causes associated with substance use. In the definitions section, there was explicit inclusion of opioids and fentanyl. That was something that was missing from the previous board policy, and we introduced some new definitions for electronic smoking devices as well as vapor product. In the policy section, there was some just general cleanup, but there are explicit references again made to essentially the uses of vape devices or e-cigarette devices. And also, there's a section in there on prevention and intervention and recovery. And this is the section that in one of the initial drafts was quite thorough, but because of the structure board policy, that's not the most appropriate place for that language. And so the revised policy essentially authorized the superintendent, if he so chooses, to have us build a regulation that provides that detail. And I do know that his intent is that we will do that. So that's what the changes were in a nutshell, and I believe Commissioner Sanchez has additional comments to share.
Thank you, Dr. Lamarca. So the reception was very positive. The board was very excited that we had been talking about this and that we've been looking into this, and they really encouraged us to continue to move forward with that, to really be focusing on strategies for bathroom safety in general, that's a really big passion of theirs, and that when we're hearing upcoming presentations, if we can kind of keep an ear out for those things and really help guide the board. If we hear something, see something that sounds pertinent to that, and we discussed we would put this on during our next meeting, as we have, but also if, this will be something that we continue to see as a commission together. So just kind of keep your eyes on that. And again, looking for as directive and helpful as we can be, because it does take a load off of the board if we're able to sort through some of these presentations. So thank you. Any questions to this item? Okay, thanks. Thank you, Dr. Lamarca. Seeing none, we will move on to item 2.03, which is presentation and discussion of physical safety measures included in the school safety and belonging presentation delivered to the January 14th Board of Trustee meeting. This is for presentation and discussion only, and we have Chief Tracy Moore and Emergency Manager Roy Anderson. Welcome.
Whoops, we'll turn that back on there for you. Tracy Moore, Chief of School Police, and I have with me today Roy Anderson, our Emergency Manager, and we will try to crank through this as quick as we can. We're going to cover a lot of information for you. We're going to try to keep in that 15-minute window in case you have any questions afterwards. So, as you know, safety is part of the school district's strategic emergency plan. It is goal number 3 of the safety and belonging to schools. We as a district continue to monitor this process through evaluations that our school safety specialist does. He does a quite extensive threat assessment analysis. And we take a look at what safety measures we can implement through some WC1 money that we do in these school sites. We put in different safety measures to ensure that. So that's, we'll move forward on that one for you. One of the things, and Adam's here too, but Adam and I have been working on this project for quite a bit of time. I know I left the district, came back, but this is a conversation we've been had prior to that. One of the biggest ones we know there is a single point of entry. If you break that down to simple terms is, I have a full perimeter fence, but if you want to come in my school, you must come in through our designated single point entry. Usually that is the main office of the school. We've continued to work that project. High school single point entry is now, it's almost complete. I know there's a couple of things we need to fix is Sparks High School, DeWine Ranch, and McQueen High School this school year, and we have additional ones planned at 25 and 26. You can see the picture there. As we do these also single point entries, we limit the view that you can see into the school. In the police world, we kind of call it out of sight, out of mind. If I can't see activity beyond that window, it usually does not engage a person to want to enter inside that building. So that's just a graphic that we have of, I think that is Green Beret Elementary, Elmcrest. Elmcrest. Okay, thank you. Facility modernization, I can't talk. That word is like kills me. Facility modernization plan. We've included that. There's high schools, middle schools. We continue to update. I know the one that we've looked over extensively too is also Reed High School. But as we move through in these projects, that's where we take a look at the full perimeter fencing. We take a look at the single point entries. We look at the safety systems and the camera systems. So those are pretty extensive. You'll see in the 5-year plan, we have Vaughn, which is currently in construction phase now. Stead Elementary School will be evaluated. Matthews, Reed, Loader, North Valleys, Pine, Sparks Middle School, and High School are all in that. The Capital Renew program is continued partners. We work with the community. We get input from the RTC as we took a look at the traffic patterns in the schools. We work with our Safe Routes to School on common pedestrian pathways. So it's a regional partner that we do when we build these new schools and remodel them to an extensive. It takes input from everybody. Yvonne, we've had zoning meetings in there, traffic pattern studies. So it's a continued regional partnership. Roy, I'm going to let you read in this next one. This is a project that Roy is heavily involved in. And I got to tell you, as your chief of police, this is a smart investment from the school district. We've had some data from recent surveys that do show staff members are showing some confidence in feeling safe and secure in the schools. And I'll let Roy introduce this technology to you all.
So, thanks, Chief. We're looking at the Centegix is the company, the brand name. Their product is Crisis Alert. So you'll hear a lot of times people will use them interchangeably. I like to just say Centegix Crisis Alert to cover everyone's bases. So the product itself was installed over the last school year, with this school year being the first year that we had full implementation across the district. What it does is it allows for everyday use by the staff to alert their administration of anything that might be occurring that needs their attention. Whether most time we have elopement where kids leave classrooms that they're not supposed to be leaving from. We'll have medical emergencies, fights, so anything that requires administration attention. That's the 2 or 3 button press, and we kind of bill it as I need help, so people understand that it's I need help now, but it's not a building-wide emergency. The badges do allow for a building-wide lockdown, so it's multiple presses of the button and it triggers the lockdown no matter where we're at. So, for example, I have a button now, this building is wired, we could technically put the building in lockdown if we needed to. Works on any district property, almost all district staff, and when I say almost is it's a choice whether staff wants to wear them or not. So we do almost have full staff wearability or wearing them for our notifications. If we go to the next slide, we actually have some discussion a little bit more about it. As Chief said, it does allow for faster reaction time. It does add that other layer of security, and if you go one more, please. You can see where we also not only have the ability to utilize the badges for those alerts, but the administration also has the ability to use the app, whether on their phone or on their desktop computer, to be able to initiate an evacuation, a secure campus. We can still use a lockdown that way or via the badge. And what's really nice about that too is our dispatch center has the ability to put a school into a lockdown if we get word, or even a secure campus if the need is there, prior to us even having to call anybody at the school. And we've actually had to use that for a couple real incidents where, as we were calling the school to let them know that we were putting them in a secure campus, we were able to trigger the incident via the app. We are also able to utilize it for drills. What's really nice about being able to use it for drill is the announcement over the intercom. What is seen via the computer, there is a pop-up screen that comes in and warns of the emergency as well. And then we have the flashing beacons. For a drill, everything works the exact same way, except for we do have the language of that this is a drill, this is a drill, this is a drill, and then the emergency announcement. So it allows our staff and students to get used to utilizing or hearing the Syntegix alert. That way we understand exactly, what it sounds like. And then if we don't hear the term, this is a drill, we obviously know it's a real world incident, and hopefully we're going to react the same way we have during our drills. You can see here, this was from August through December of 2024. We had 28 incidents, 2 evacuations, 16 lockdowns, and 10 secured campuses. And then you can see, I spoke briefly earlier about the other examples of the different types of emergencies we've had for it as well. Next slide, I think we'll.
You want me to cover this one?
It's up to you.
Yeah, I'll cover this one real quick. So he had talked about some real world instances, and we wanted to bring this up to you. The first one on there, we wanted to bring every level to show you the return on this investment. We had a person who was making a threat at a local middle school in real time, and that dispatcher was able to keep that complainant on the phone and place that middle school into a lockdown. Previous history, it would have been, hopefully they're listening to the radio. Sometimes a dispatcher may not be available to call into that radio because they're handling our primary calls. Otherwise, it was a call into school, and you're hoping that someone would pick up that telephone so we could tell you to put it into lockdown. So you're now able to, with one click, put that school into lockdown. I would say the average time for a successful lockdown, being kind here, 2 minutes. So now you're going from 1 second from 2 minutes. So that's very helpful. Let's see, we had a large altercation at a school. There were numerous activations on that, which is interesting to see. Sometimes you'll get one, it's an accidental activation. In this one at the high school, there was a threat that happened off of the property that actually came onto the property. And there were the principal activated, the teachers activated. So we got numerous alerts. And that kind of gives you there's got to be something going on. So we're out there handling this incident off of property, and we get the alerts come through our dispatch. So we're like, okay, let's get some units over there. So it's very rapid. It was an unstructured time. As we all know, everything always happens at beginning of day, end of day, lunchtime, when we're not in that classroom. So it's a bit of a challenge to control that environment. So very rapidly able to put that school into lockdown. Another one interesting, it wasn't related to our nearest earthquake swarm, but we had an earthquake in the north region where they actually did the right thing. They felt the earthquake and they took the necessary measures by our emergency plan, and they activated their device. We got the alert, and they also followed up with us via radio saying, hey, we felt the earthquake, this is what we're doing. So yeah, this gives you an example of immediate threats, regionalized threats, so it's a very helpful system for us in the response world. Next one. Already, huh? Another investment that we've done. As a state, we are moving to a new public safety radio system. It is a very expensive system. We share the system with the state of Nevada, Nevada Department of Energy, and Washoe County is a part of that, which the school district falls in that umbrella. This same radio technology that I have right here on my hip is what our schools have. And like I say, it is an expensive technology. It is public safety rated. And so, yes, we maintain that system in our buses, in our school campuses. But we knew that there was a need for additional radios in our school system. So, yes, we're able to upgrade to this new digital technology. It expands the capabilities. We can have more people on the system. In the old system, we were very restricted. We really had no room for growth. During that time, we noticed there was another brand of model. So we're able to push that out to additional support staff in the school. So we're able to maintain the radio communications on a public safety network and add another layer of school support function with those radios. So it's saving the district money, but we're able to provide more service. Roy, I'll let you cover this one, the last bullet there.
All right. So then also to new this school year, about 3 or 4 school years ago, we've integrated the word lockdown into our code red. So it's code red -lockdown, code yellow -secure campus. This year, with the addition of utilizing crisis alert at our schools, it was a great opportunity to get rid of codes, which is not a best practice. It is something that's been discontinued across the nation years ago. Luckily, we were able to now get it to where we can get rid of codes and use plain language, which is now lockdown or secured campus. So that was using you saw earlier in the presentation where I was already using those terms. So hopefully it didn't confuse you at that moment. But the use of plain language is really good, especially if we have visitors, parents on campus that might not be familiar. Someone recently moved from out of state back into the region, or they're able to understand what lockdown is pretty quickly just by utilizing that one term. So that was a move that we did. Plus, two, hospitals codes are different. There was other different terminologies in our community that we want to make sure that there's no confusion when we use our terminology. Next slide, I think, is Raptor. We also, years ago, through the commission, we implemented Lobby Guard. Lobby Guard had some challenges and went through some issues that we had with COVID, as a lot of issues came up during that time period. But Raptor was a company that did visitor management strictly for schools. They acquired Lobby Guard. Through that acquisition, we were able then to get the Raptor system in our schools. We utilized a grant to purchase brand new laptops. The little device is a ID reader and then a badge printer. So we were able to get that new for all of our schools. We implemented it throughout this beginning of the first semester of this school year. And we've probably got about 90% or so of the schools that are using now Raptor as our visitor management system. Hopefully we'll get 100% here after we get some challenges, done with, and we can get everybody on board. So hopefully when you go out and visit, you guys are being signed in through Raptor. If you're not, make sure you ask about it. It's like, oh, I thought I was supposed to learn Raptor. So that's my service announcement. But it does do a instant background check via the sex offender database. Also, too, what's really nice about it is the schools are able to put in their own red flags. So if there's a parent that, or even someone from related to the staff members that aren't supposed to be on campus, we can do a red flag and have that information come to the staff member of, hey, this person is not allowed to be on campus for whatever reason. And those are all able to be put in by the school directly themselves, so they have that flexibility to have that information on there. It does allow for visitor logs. Some schools are using it as a staff check-in, check-out for timekeeping purposes, which is really nice. Some schools are still using old-fashioned time clocks for some of their staff, so it's kind of been a dual use. And then we have had some schools that also use it for student tardies. It wasn't designed from my side of it to be able to do that. However, it is a feature that is available to the schools if they so choose to use it. And there's been a few that's doing that as well. I think that's it.
I think you covered that one.
Is that the last slide? Oh, I'm sorry. This was the wrap up, yeah. I'm sorry, Chief, go ahead.
No, just was gonna, on the Raptor system too, what's nice for us is we're able to access that visitor management log. So if we do have an incident where we need to put a school in a lockdown, and we need to do an accountability check of people are not staff members there, it's a very useful tool that you can be accessed at any point in time. So I don't need to walk in that school and physically pick up that visitor management log. It's nice for us too, is we maintain a historical record, so we can see, John Doe frequently visits this site, and then also we have a history of another site. So in the law enforcement world, it's good for us to get those records, is what we would like to call it, that we can use in an evidentiary purpose if we had to. So I don't need to really read the slide to you, but we can, as I said, it continues to be, you all give us feedback. It is feedback from real world incidents that show us the safety measures that we need to continue to develop in our schools. We look at newer technology. We explore different technologies. It's certainly out there, and sometimes you can get a little overwhelmed with the technology out there. We'll continue to explore what's going to work best for the school district. I know there's a lot of IA items out there. We have looked at those, and we continue to test those too. But we got to make sure we're making a smart investment that overall our goal is to keep the staff and students safe in these schools. And we'll open up if there's any questions. We had a truck along pretty quick on that. I think we covered that at a board meeting, and we had a lot more time. So we're certainly here if you have any questions.
I want to thank you both for coming. This has been such a long project with this commission, is single point of entry. How do we get Raptor on board? I was at a couple schools in the last few months that have not had Raptor on board. So I'll just gently remind them that hey, where do I sign in? I thought Raptor was available. So thank you both so much for that, and I want to open it up to the commission if there's any questions or comments. Commissioner Zucker?
So you mentioned single point of entry, and then you then talked about, I don't know the term that you used, but the irregular hours, so not during school hours. So single point of entry during those times, and then you mentioned that incidents are occurring in those after hours. What is the plan for that?
So we like to refer to that as unstructured time, when the kids are not in the classroom. So beginning of the day, lunchtime, dismissal. The systems can, as we go back to, let's go back to Centegix. That system will still function 24/7, 365. You can go to any property and activate that emergency. The process still goes through the PA system. The lights indicate. We get, in the dispatch side, we get to see what part of the building that is in. So I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, it's been a challenge. So now we have a system that's automated that puts it into the level of lockdown, secure campus that you're requesting through multiple means, visual, audio, and on that screen. So it's very, very slick system. I will kudos to the engineers of that.
Yeah.
I did have more.
Go ahead, yeah.
And then you did mention accidental. So can you just speak to that and of how we've had accidental, how they're messaged afterwards that it was accidental? And
Sure. So as with any technology, right, you put it in the hands of 9,000 employees, things are going to occur. We've had everything from staff member put it in their purse as they're walking out the door at the end of the day, and it triggers to a bus driver driving by and it was in their bag. And it just happened to be at the right time, wrong place, or whatever that might be. So those, we have established in some guidelines and parameters and for the staff to investigate if it is or is not an incidental activation. The first and foremost is if you are the person that triggered the button or you think it might have been you that did it, that immediate communication to the administration is needed. A lot of times we've had staff members where they meant the 3-button press, but because of the adrenaline of the incident that was occurring, they just kept pressing. And luckily other staff have been around to be able to notify that, no, this was an inadvertent lockdown. So we're able to get it switched relatively quick out of that. However, there are times where, like the example with the purse, that person had no clue that they instituted a lockdown, and luckily everyone, they didn't know, so we treat it as real until we're able to confirm that's not. So unfortunately, that one went a little bit longer that it took for school police to get there, investigate, find the person, because each badge is assigned to the individual person. So if I push the button, it will connect to the closest beacon, which is in here somewhere, and alert that I was the one that pressed it. Well, if I'm known to the campus, then that's pretty easy. We could try to get a hold of me and see if it's real. If not, then we just treat it until it's real, until school police can find that individual, make sure what's going on. So it unfortunately has had some times where we have had to go a little bit prolonged period until we can investigate it, but that's few and far between.
And then one more, and then I'll let everybody. So leading into that, what is the communication with staff and students and like debriefing after a traumatic experience or potentially traumatic experience?
Sure. So instituted this year was the ability to switch from a lockdown to a secure campus via the intercom. It used to be where we had to go room by room and lift it from or change it from the lockdown to a secure campus, and then back to normal, whatever that would look like. So understanding that there is a need to go quickly so we don't have that prolonged danger, we do have a script now that we're able to read over the intercom where we switch from the lockdown to a secure campus. And then we also have a letter that's available for staff to send home to families, or then also communication via our communications office.
And then I guess, oh, go ahead.
I just want to piggyback on one part you had commented too. After any critical incident, let's say let's go the higher level, let's go for a lockdown. Law enforcement will commonly debrief that. We'll call that a hot wash. We'll do a rapid hot wash, and we'll learn from some of those incidents, like what went well, what didn't work well. That's how we get to where we are. Is critical analyzing the data, the feedback from these calls of what can we do to make better. One of those that we're continuing to work with Roy is parent reunification. The plan looks good, you test it, we need to change it. So it's the same thing here. Regardless of the incident, law enforcement, if it's a large amount of presence, we do debrief after those and analyze the data. There may have been, maybe there's a gate on the full perimeter fence that we just forgot about or was left ajar or the lock was cut. So it's important that, yes, we do a rapid hot wash after these critical incidents.
And I guess my question to add on or to piggyback on that is there's a lot of behavioral health and mental health professionals in this room, and regardless of whether or not it was legit, whether it was not legit, for a child or for a staff member in the classroom that is being told there's an active shooter or whatever, or having those feelings of that, how are we communicating with those families and giving the families the tools or the teachers the tools to have those conversations with the kid about what happened that day? Might not be your guys's.
Yeah,
That
I was
might be
going
a
to say, I
Catherine
think that's a
question.
Catherine. That might be a Catherine
I
question.
just wonder about that because I think that there are families that are wondering.
So I'll give you a brief high altitude in that one. So what we will do is school police will work with the site administrators and our communications department, Michelle Anderson's team. We will give them the information that we can. You know, sometimes these are law enforcement sensitive issues, outlying areas. A lot of ones you will see is police activity outside the area. We certainly know that there's anxiety that goes into these secure campus and lockdowns. We give the information we can to our principal and our communications team to send that message to the parents. I certainly can tell you we work closely with the principals. Once we pass that baton off to principal when it comes to the mental health and de-stressing from those incidents. I don't know if it's Paul or Catherine's team that can step in, but I just want to let you know that we in the world of school police work very closely with our administrators and communications to ensure that we get you the message in a safe manner when it's safe to do so.
Great. And thank you. And maybe at the end, Catherine, we can have you, if that's okay. Nope, can't do it. You're not on the agenda. Okay, great. Thanks. So we will table that one for later. I see that we've got some activity online. See, that's why I looked at you, Sarah. What do we have online, Sylvia?
Commissioner Elizabeth Flores says this is an impressive technology and I'm thankful to the district. The district has been supportive of these enhanced safety measures.
Great. Any other comments or questions by commissioners in person or online?
Yeah, I'll second Commissioner Flores' comment on it. I think when you do talk about, how impressive it is, I believe you talked about the compliance. I think currently it's optional to carry the Citrix, I believe it's called. So I think that's number one, is you said about 90% of the staff. And then what is that? Are we moving towards mandating it? And then the same thing with Raptor as well. I've had the opportunity to go and present in certain schools, and I find that I feel a lot safer because I've been in a lockdown personally during a presentation, having to go through it. And then how do we inquire about it? Is it, if it's there and made available to them, do they have to comply to use it as a school?
Yeah, so district policy does have, or admin reg, that we have the use of it. There are times where they were having some technical issues. We've got, right now a couple schools, their entries being remodeled, so they're waiting until that's done to do it. So it's not a matter of not wanting to utilize the system. There are some times limitations where we just haven't been able to implement it, but we're ironing those out. So that's where about the 95% usage is at. And then it is up to the school to use it. We've trained them, it's up and running. And then, so as you go, you can, say, hey, and I do it all the time. It's like, oh, where's Raptor at? I need to check in kind of thing too, because we should do all district employees. Technically, if you're not assigned as a staff member to that school, you are a visitor. So it doesn't matter where you work or who, what other department you're from. So we do expect a full sign-in.
And then I guess to
follow the badge.
Yeah, and the badge.
So the badges, that's when Strategics was rolled out, it was given as an option at that time, hasn't been revisited. So right now it's here, if you want a badge, you could get it assigned. If not, then it's not assigned to you.
I guess as a commission, right, is there opportunity for us to, or as a whole, advise to the board that this should be something that is a requirement? And then again, if it's available for Raptor, for example, for again, if we have the available technology to utilize that technology. So I don't know if
We
that's
can
in our
talk
realm.
about it today. We can't vote on it, and we can't make any recommendations today.
All right, thank you
Yeah,
for
so we can
clarification.
put it back on the agenda for next time. too.
And I would be
Yeah.
more than happy to come back and discuss whatever those changes or enhancements you would like.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioner Moodine, did you have a, yes?
I had a few questions. So you mentioned the single point of entry, and I was wondering, like, sometimes the person, like, that's a threat isn't just an outsider, it's also a student that can be a threat and bringing a weapon into school. So is the single point of entry, does it have, like, a way to deal with students that are being the threat?
So the intent of, there's a multitude of layers when it comes to single point entry. One of the first things we started doing was a full perimeter fence. So when we do put you into a secured campus, we want to be able to know physically where is that line in the sidewalk on the property. We're able to close those gates, and it allows us to keep a more secure campus. It's easier to spot somebody crawling over a fence, cutting through a fence versus just walking on the property. So it gives us that clear, defined layer of security. Then you work your way into where you start getting, some of the schools are now getting the more of an interior fencing to streamline you to that single point entry. Same thing, it allows us to see these things through surveillance or the campus safety monitors to see someone that's walking around that school. There are certain times when these access points are open, but there's also a certain time when those need to be closed, so we can maintain that into the single point entry. When it does come to an internal threat, there is workplace violence. There are students inside the building. I do have to say the one thing that we've seen that's very evident is strategics, not tied into your single point entry, but that security level is that many more eyes in the sky, more people to report it. If you're a teacher in the hallway and you see an incident occur, you no longer have to run into your classroom and get the phone. Another note, this is on its own independent network, so let's say our phone network is down, this system hypothetically should be functioning on its own. So we have a lot more eyes in the hallways that can call for assistance than we can. I hope that answers that question, but yes, single point entry does not really stop that outside threat. We're looking at other technology district-wide that we can certainly can, but we've got to find a way to fund it. But our goal is to keep those doors and the exterior of the building secured and make you come in through that single point entry in the front of the building. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that does. Thank you. I also had a few comments about Syntegex because I have gone through it. I'm a student representative, so we've been through so many secured campuses at our school. So we got that whole thing down the back. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. I'm not sure if it's just our school or if it's just a system thing, but the beacons, when they flash the light, the green and the yellow kind of look the same. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm not sure if it's just our school, like the systems are off or, yeah. But I just wanted to bring that up. And then another thing is the code names. I understand the reason you guys changed it. I just believe as a student, it was a little hard to adjust to them. And sometimes when they were the beacons were ringing lockdown or secured campus, I would think secured campus is a lockdown, so I would get additional anxiety. So is there anything you guys are doing to kind of get students used to the terminology?
So the biggest thing is just utilizing the drills for that. The beacons are, unfortunately, it's their first generation of the beacons, and we are utilizing what we have. There's the same throughout. The yellow is more of an amber-ish, right? But the number one way for us to communicate to the building-wide is that intercom. That intercom is so important to be able to get the message out to the entire building rapidly, and then also to the computer screen takeovers where it now says secure campus or lockdown. And unfortunately, it's just a Band-Aid we have to rip off. We still have staff that are still utilizing codes because they've been working here, 10, 15, I'm not sure when code red and yellow You guys were here before. So it's been a while. Fortunately, it's a Band-Aid we have to rip off and just keep getting used to it. The more we use it, the better. And honestly, there was a lot of confusion with the codes. There was lots of times in the media where they would use code yellow lockdown. And again, that's confusion. And a lot of times the secure campus is done just to keep whatever incident is occurring outside from coming in. And a lot of times it is just that. We're going to secure the campus, try to continue business as normal-ish, right? So that way we know, look, we're safe, we're okay, and it's help ease some of that mental trauma that could come from utilizing lockdown wrong or utilizing the wrong terminology.
So I'll piggyback on it real quick. It's culture. We're changing culture. You're all used to the color codes, and which makes me happy. You're used to that, and you know what it is to happen. It'll take, I think, when you change an emergency plan, it takes an average of 3 years to reinstall that culture. So the good thing is, when your kids sit in the hospital and hear code red, they're not going to go, Dad, we got to lock down. That's how I first experienced. What is a code red in a hospital? It's an activated fire alarm. So anyway, it'd be going to switch into plain language, and it will become more fluid through time.
We'll go to Commissioner Smith and then to Commissioner Porter online.
Thank you very much. Quick question, Chief Moore. You mentioned on the slides about the facility modernization that we're leveraging modern security standards. Can you elaborate a little bit more on who sets those standards? What standards are we following when we're looking at those modern security standards?
I think we look at their, Smith, is industry standards. What is working throughout the country? There's some artificial intelligence out there of weapons detection systems. There's metal detector systems. There's door access control systems. As we continue to go through newer technologies, I certainly don't mind being the guinea pig, but I'd rather look at some other industry standards that are out there. Like we said, the footprint fence was a transitional, single point entry is a transitional. I think what we do is we continue to look and see what's working in other educational settings, what's effective. The one thing that I am studying for and getting more intel and data is access control, access door systems. If I want an exterior door secured, I want that to be secured. If it's left ajar, I want to be known that's left ajar. So we're looking at these technologies. Everything does come with a cost. We want to make sure that it's effective and applicable in the Washington County School District.
Thank you. So I'll translate that. What I think that means is we're looking at a variety of standards that an industry has pushed out, but there's not necessarily an accrediting body that says these are national school security standards that we should meet. That doesn't necessarily exist currently, or
Not that we're aware of.
okay, cool. I'm not aware of it either, but I'd be interested. It wasn't a pop quiz question, by the way, just checking. Okay, my second question is along the things that are near and dear to your heart and mind, the radio system. So really quickly, you said that there's been a change in the radios that the schools will have. Will there still be radio interoperability between those radios and what the first responders carry?
So yes, when it comes to the Nevada shared radio system, the public safety radio system, so you're all aware, we did have to upgrade what is a internal radio system. It's called a bidirectional amplifier. That was another significant investment the district had to make. The radio system we were working on would not work with the new one, so we did have to upgrade the BDAs in the facilities that have that. So yes, we're able to work with that. The Midland radio with the different frequency range, that really went out to people that did not need that primary means of communication directly to a dispatch center or a school administrator. So there's some support crews, SFCs, that now have that better radio communication. This radio here on my hip, which we use, can cost anywhere from $1,200 to well over $3,000. And that's just the radio, not on top of the cost. We have to pay a yearly fee on that. But yes, all schools are transitioned to the P25, and we were actually one of the leading testers in the P25 radio system for the county. We were able to say, yep, it works great. We got to make some tweaks here.
Okay, but it's similar. At the same time, the school administrators aren't necessarily stepping on radio traffic on the public safety side. We've got our own networks at the school sites that communicate internally? Is that how it works?
We're on the same system. When you pick up this radio and you are issued the P25 safe radio, you're on the same system as police, fire, the state of Nevada. We're all in the same system. With the new technology, it more than doubles the capacity. Because we've had some large-scale incidents in the past where the system has been full and you can't transmit. So with P25, it expands the capabilities of the system. More people can talk.
However, each school does have their own channel, so they have their own internal communication that dispatch can go on to, or any of the police can go on to, or each of those radios then also have a school police dispatch channel that they're able to turn to be able to communicate directly. The middling radios that were on this slide are radios that were given to every elementary school, because the elementary schools only have one of the school police dispatch radios. So this allows them to still have internal communication, and then they have the ability to choose and add on more if they want to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sarah Porter has a question. She's saying, what is the policy training for front office staff using the single point of entry? For example, I have gone into DePoli many times and they have the new retrofitted glass up in the front office, but the side door to the office is wide open.
That was a great face.
So great question. The purpose, intent of a single point entry is to make you check into that front office, and then you're allowed to enter into the school. There are still some schools that are having those modifications made. We certainly work with our plant facilities when those designs come out. One of the ones that is rather interesting trying to figure out is Booster. You take a look at that footprint of that campus. That's very challenging. That wasn't intended to be a single point entry. So I certainly can look further into that for you, but I'm fairly familiar with the police layout. Is you're supposed to come in through a door. You're forced to check into the front office before you gain access into the school. I hope that helps.
So, and it's just like at many of our schools, we could give them the tools, but it's still up to them to utilize them. We do have our school safety specialist that works out of our office that does spot checks at schools. He'll do drop-bys. There are a few that we have to go by every now and then, double check that a certain door is closed when school is open. We've done a pretty good job about that, not to single out any schools, but there are times where we have to go back a couple times and just remind them, because again, people get used to it. Sometimes for reasons of just coming in and out, not wanting to use their keys every time, they circumvent the things that are put in place.
Makes sense. Thank you. Are there any other questions online or in person? Commissioner Gocochea.
This isn't a question, but just for the purpose of if we meet again for more further discussion or action, I would be interested in, I don't know who would present this necessarily, for the teachers who have decided not to wear the badges, before we as a commission try to make decisions for our teachers who already have a lot going on and a lot on their plates, or other staff. I would be really interested in knowing, for those potentially 10% who have, opted out of doing that, maybe some of their reasons why, what are the conflicts or their concerns, because it's really easy, I think, for us to just make an assumption that everybody having them is the best option, and maybe it is, but there is a reason that people are, hesitant or have opted not to. So I would love to hear some of the concerns or reasons why not, if we had the opportunity to do that when we're trying to make action or make recommendations.
That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, there may be an opportunity to maybe gather some data, send out a survey to the principals and see like what is, how many staff members have not, and then see if we can try to find some of that data. Because what I have is just anecdotal of the few schools that I was present to do the training and giving the badges out, and saw some people refuse, but I didn't go into why.
Great. Thank you. Exciting things upcoming, a preview of events. Any other questions for our presenters? Okay. Thank you guys so much. That was wonderful. Thank you. We really appreciate it. And now we move on to item 2.04, presentation and discussion of the Washoe County School District's multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS framework, emphasizing student emotional well-being and how it relates to safe and healthy schools. And some of the purpose of this item is for presentation and discussion only, so we're not voting on this. But for some of the folks who are newer to the commission, this is maybe an introduction to MTSS. And for those of us who've been on it, hopefully a review. So thank you, Dr. LaMarca.
Thank you, Chairperson Sanchez and members of the commission. Again, Paul LaMarca, Chief Student Support Officer. And I think this is actually great. We just had a very good presentation regarding some of the physical safety measures. And it's a primary goal of our district to make sure every child is and feels safe, both physically and social emotionally. And that is required in order for them to learn. And the multi-tiered system of supports is really an internal system that enables us to meet the needs of all students. So I'm going to walk through this thing that we put together for you. We just basically culled some information from our website and some information we've shared with principals and with families. And really it is, as Natalie said, just an introduction. Some of you are very well aware of these processes. Some of you are maybe not so aware. So again, multi-tiered system of supports, and I'm yelled at if I say systems of support. It's one system, lots of supports. It's really a problem-solving framework, and it's designed to meet the needs of all students. And we frame all of our attendance efforts, our behavior efforts, our mental health efforts, and our academic efforts within this system of support. The goals of the system, it's really built on prevention. So one of the goals is to strengthen the opportunities that all students have. And another goal of the system is to use data to know the extent to which students are responding to what we call our core instructional practices. And the primary objective is to prevent failure before it occurs. So we want to, for example, reduce unnecessary referrals to special education. That is a goal of this particular system. The system, and we'll show some pictures in a second, it's really broken into what we call 3 tiers. So at tier 1, or at the core of the model, is core instructional practice. This, for example, includes grade level academic standards. It includes the things we do to support attendance for all students. It's important to note that even at this core level, teachers and staff are expected to differentiate support for students. We know that one size does not fit all students, and so even at this core level of instruction or behavioral support or mental health support, it's tailored to meet the needs of students. Tier 2 is really the first level of intervention. A student who is not responding to Tier 1 or core instructional practices might receive interventions at the Tier 2 level. These interventions are individualized, but they tend to be delivered in small groups. Probably the most important thing to remember about the tiered interventions is they never replace core instructional practice. They're always in addition to core instructional practice. So we don't, for example, take a student out of a math class in order to provide them with interventions around math. That would kind of defeat the purpose. Students who then still struggle in responding to both Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions might receive even more individualized or specialized interventions, and oftentimes those will be delivered on a one-on-one basis or an even smaller group basis. So let's jump to the next page. So a lot of times in the literature, when you talk about multi-tiered system of supports, you will see a triangle. This triangle was actually taken off of our internal data warehouse. We've referenced it before. It's called Business Intelligence Gateway, the big system. So this is, it was as of probably 2 weeks ago, but a picture of what we're looking like in terms of MTSS district as a whole. And you're going to see if you add up numbers like I do, which is weird maybe, there's far more students in here than are going to school on any particular day. And that's just because we're looking at kids who've been present at any time during this particular school year. So theoretically, what we expect is about 80 to 85% of kids will respond well in Tier 1, and they will not require intervention. About 10 to 15% of students may require Tier 2 interventions, but based on that, they will respond well. Only about 5% of students will require Tier 3. So you see we're a bit over. And what this tells us as a system is that we need to strengthen core instructional practice, or core practices related to behavior, or core practices related to mental health supports, or core practices related to attendance, and likely all of those things. If you jump to the next slide, I think we've talked in here, and it might be interesting if we haven't, well, we have a couple of times about our early warning system. So as a student walks in every school year, we do, based on a series of indicators, provide a risk index for schools to use, and it mirrors sort of our multi-tiered system of support framework, system of supports framework, as well as what we see in that model. This is a snapshot taken at about the same time. So you see about 55% of our kids, they're really, there's no risk that we know of based on their performance in schools. That's all students suffer from some risk factors, and you can read the rest. But this is kind of the problem-solving framework. You move through tiers based on data that we have in the system where it's reviewed, and we identify that a particular child isn't responding and they need more. Okay, so this next piece, I believe this is our family communication. If you jump forward, please. Thank you. So one of the objectives I didn't mention is part of the real important inner workings of MTSS is to partner with families. We know that parents are the first teachers. We know that to optimally support a student, we got to partner with families. And so this is one of a number of types of communications that we share with families. And in fact, in law, parents must be contacted as we move students between tiers. They don't necessarily have to sign off on that process, but they have to be informed that this is what is happening to their child. So that's just an example of some of the information that you would find on our website that we attempt to make it family friendly. It's translated in order to better partner with our families. Then if we go forward, and then I'll shut up and answer any questions you might have. This is a document that we shared in the fall with principals. As you know, this year there was a big focus on chronic absenteeism and what we're calling reclaiming instructional time. Attending matters. And I think we tried to tell sort of a informal story in here of how all of these things that we're talking about are interrelated. So if you have a student who's chronically absent and we go to extremes and we get them to come back into the school, we anticipate seeing possible increased behavior. We anticipate seeing possible increases in anxiety. And we know because of the discontinuity in learning that there's going to be academic gaps. Those as well might lead to frustration, or they may lead to bullying. All these things kind of work together. So there's real danger. So traditionally, MTSS has been designed for academics. Some of you have heard of something called response to intervention. That was kind of like, you know, the alpha of MTSS, and also PBIS. That's positive behavior intervention and supports. That's kind of the behavior parallel to RTI. These things work best together. And so with this communication, we were trying to signal to principals that really you want one system that looks at all of these outcomes because they're all interrelated. And we are trying to get them to identify organizing principles. One of those principles that we highlight, if you switch to the next page, is relationships. In order to differentiate instruction and to make instruction relevant, you have to be able to know a child and what interests them. In order to convince a child to come back into a school who hasn't been attending, they've got to have people that they know care about them. In order to de-escalate behavior, you need relationships in place between students and adults. So the point of this exercise with principals is so you can focus in on relationships, and in doing so, you are actually benefiting all these outcomes. We're not asking you to do different things in support of each one of these. So that's really a summary of MTSS. I should have started by saying that this work is led by Trish Schaefer, our Director of Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. Trish is at a Castle conference back east, and so she couldn't be here today, so she asked me to provide the update. I'd be happy to give you a couple of examples of tiered practices, but I think I'll just open it up for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Lamarca. So I know there's some folks on the commission that have some questions, but I'm going to ask a couple myself first. How do we assess progress for school mental health? Do we use a nationally recommended or any validated tools to see how we're doing? And you may not have the answer for this. This might be having Trish come back.
We do not at this point, and
Okay.
we do not have good outcome data around the efficacy of some of our mental health supports. It's something that we are working on. We have lots of anecdotal data, for example, that we could share that would talk about the effectiveness of our mental health professionals, the effectiveness of our school social workers. And we can take students to an extent that we know have participated in some of those supports and look at some of these big outcomes, but we don't have good data systems around mental health specifically. I can tell you that we sort of have the reverse. We know that when students do not identify trusted adults in the school environment, they are performing much more poorly. And we have lots of data that suggests that. Catherine Loudon and I, Brandy Olson, and Trish Schaefer have been working on better data systems.
Wonderful. Is there an MTSS coach that each school kind of has access to, or a person that is their point? I'm killing you. I'm sorry.
Hopefully you'll all come with me to the board meeting tomorrow when we talk about budget. No, we
Okay.
do not have that.
Okay.
We have, actually, we really only have one academic coach
Okay.
and one sort of behavior coach, one SEL coach for the district as a whole. We do have ongoing training for schools. Every school is expected to have a MTSS team within their building. And it is an area that is a focal area, systems within schools, and so more support would be better. But we are facing budget deficits, so we are not requesting additional positions right now.
Okay. And what about, is there an MTSS support or like district, like community partnership for people outside the district that would be willing to help, or?
To a degree, yes. We, for example, I mentioned Castle. So in different areas, we work with Attendance Works around attendance. We have Institute of Educational Leadership for family engagement that's all tied in with this. We work with UNR and their MTSS team. We work with the state. So there is a variety of support, and we have some partnerships in place.
Great. Thank you. Vice Chair Zucker.
Well, I was just going to ask about that leadership team and who at the district is part of a leadership team, if we have a leadership team.
So this is a really good question. I will tell you that every person on executive leadership team what we call academic leadership team, is well steeped in MTSS. They know what it is, they know it's expected, and that goes from the superintendent on down. Some of these groups that we're referencing as partners, they talk about the need for the district to have a leadership team. That leadership team is primarily made up of directors and myself from our office, working in partnership with community agencies. So, for example, we are looking at having a steering committee around school-based health clinics, which is tied into this very specifically around mental health and medical support. That team would include Catherine Loudon, our Director of Counseling, Brandy Olson, our Director of Psych Services, Trish Schaefer, our Director of MTSS. I will be on that team. A couple of members of this particular commission have been asked to be a part of that team. We have 2 or 3 representatives from UNR that would be part of that team. So that's the answer to that.
And so that does not exist, but so if it, in best practice, like how often would you want to meet as leadership teams or have that opportunity?
I would say it does exist.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't exist in as substantive a form as it should. I think that steering committee should be meeting at least quarterly, with possible smaller groups that would meet based on tasks more frequently than that.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. From the commission, Commissioner Gokotier, you look like you.
I am grateful to hear about the partnerships with UNR because I had somebody reach out actually last week who was asking about MTSS, and it was before I got the agenda, and so I was like super thrilled when this was on our agenda. Somebody from the district health office asking about how embedded UNR's MTSS program was in the school district, and I was like, I don't have any idea. That's a great question for the school district. But basically indicating that the university program and what they had to offer and wanted to implement was, as part of the community health plan, was like very fruitful. And so I'm just really glad to see what, we've had this presentation, a couple of times about what MTSS is doing, but just to hear the partnership because it seems to be potentially unknown that the university is partnering.
It's a partnership we need to strengthen. I can tell you with confidence that we've worked very closely with Casey Fleetwood for years. She's one of the technical assistance providers for the state, and she works through the UNR. For whatever reason, I've lost their name. But we are very interested in working more with Dr. Ashley Greenwald. She kind of runs the center, as well as Dr. Erica Rist. And Dr. Erica Rist is already a strong partner of ours with the medical school. A lot of work around psychological services and mental health.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. LaMarca? Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. LaMarca. Quick question. You mentioned something, you mentioned that our primary focus this year has been on chronic absenteeism. Do we have any idea of how we're doing this year, focusing on chronic absenteeism?
Thank you for the question. It's a mixed bag, and I don't have strong data to share at this time, and I've been warned against it because I tend to use that big data set, and the denominator, the calculation methods are a little bit different than the state uses, so at times can be misleading. We are up or down in the good direction. I can't say to how far down. And there have been some historical things that have affected that. I will tell you that some of the change at the national level and the emphasis around immigration really kind of threw us in a tailspin there for a while, and we're continuing to be in a tailspin.
Dr. Lamarca, I just want to make sure we're not getting too far off the agenda topic, and chronic absenteeism hasn't been agendized. So just kind of keep it very general and not go into
Okay.
specifics, please.
On a very, I'd say on a very positive, in a positive light, the efforts around chronic absenteeism are leading to things such as more students participating in clubs and activities in school, which helps build that connection, sense of belonging, which we believe in time, and it'll take time, will lead to a better academic outcomes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Lamarca. Any other questions or comments from the commission on this item? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, let's move on to presentation, item 2.05 for presentation and discussion only of bathroom safety in Washoe County School District. To include discussion on the use of vape and e-cig detection. We are very lucky today to have two principals joining us. Yes, we are lucky. Thank you for taking your time. That's a big deal. We have Joel Piotto from Dilworth and Tristan McElhaney from Hug High School. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to hearing what you all have to say.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having us. It's an honor to speak in front of you. I know that you all have such busy lives, too, so we really appreciate you watching out for our students and staff here. My name is Joel Pichotto. I'm the proud principal over at Dilworth Middle School. I've been asked to speak a little bit today about some systems that we have in place about bathroom safety specific to vaping. I know that that's been a hot topic for the last few years nationwide, and we are a big part of that, too. We also are very concerned, too. And so Dilworth Middle School, you know, I'm one of many schools. We all have different systems in place, but I think that we all collaborate and talk about best practices about what we can do. Our school was built in '61, so as you imagine, '61, we don't have all the bells and whistles that Mr. McElhaney has at Hug High School. So it's a little bit toned down. We only have 3 hallways, a couple sets of restrooms. We actually only have 2 that we secure for the students, which doesn't seem like a lot, but we only boast 620 students, where Mr. McElhaney has much more. 2 sets of staff restrooms, and in those, as you would imagine, in the 1960s, there were no vape detectors, and to this day, there are still no vape detectors. However, I will tell you that with the insurgence of vaping nationwide, and we're we have the issues as well. We have been able to alleviate the issues without vape detectors. I know that I'm probably going to be a little bit off from many of my colleagues. I think we hear about vape detectors and we say, yes, we all want them. We want something that detects the vapes, and that's it. But what we don't realize is what do we do with that information? Is it preventing vaping, which is the whole point? Or are we using them just as, first of all, a moneymaker for the people who are selling vape detectors? Or what's the research that says that it's actually stopping this? So we've been able to leverage our staff more using some assistance with Title I funding that we receive at our school to purchase additional staffing for prevention and intervention with behavior, social, emotional supports, academic supports, as well as our campus supervisors, which are kind of like hall monitors at our site. And how do we really leverage their positions to support this effort in reducing vaping? So with that, we created a safety school committee that meets very regularly, talking about how do we address this issue. And so in turn, we have these people stationed around the restroom areas. And I'm proud to say that this year there have been almost 0 fights and vaping incidents in the restrooms. Not to say that it's not existing, because students are smart. Vapes are getting smaller and smaller. And there are different ways that students are vaping, whether it's off campus, on campus, in classrooms sometimes too. There are some vapes that are being created now that have even less vapor, so they're harder to recognize. And so there are always things that are coming up that we discuss. But in terms of vape detection, I think that we could really look at the budgets that we have, the people that we have. How can we operate rather than bringing in vape detectors right away, how can we leverage the people and the resources that we do have before we start throwing money at things that might need a little bit more work? I would caution at being really reactive and throwing all of our resources and money into vape detectors. I think a quick Google search will show you that there is not a lot of research that really supports that vape detectors really stop vaping at all. But if anything, what really helps are cessation programming. So where can we use our fund? If we have this funding set aside for this, can we use it for more programming to talk about the dangers of vaping, maybe working with the counseling department or these resources that I discussed, maybe training these personnel to support these students with cessation. That's way more effective, and there's research to show that teaching students and children and youth on anything is more beneficial than trying to catch them doing something bad, because then what do we do with that? So that's where I stand right now. I'll turn over to Tristan.
Hello all, Tristan McElhaney, proud principal over at Hug High School. I can say that listening to what Mr. Peixoto was just saying, we mirror a lot of the same practices at Hug, and we have a different style of bathroom. Ours are, every stall is individually enclosed in the bathrooms. We have 3 banks of those on the first floor, 2 on the second floor, 2 on the third floor. And in looking at vape detection, those kinds of things, because of the design, we're able to travel around our campus monitors, our teachers, everybody. It's right off the hallway. If there's something that doesn't smell right, it's real easy to call it in, and we can address it. Also talking about the cost issue, with each stall being individualized, that would be a lot of vape detectors. Each bank of bathrooms has at least 9 stalls. So quick math, that's a lot. And also worried about them being damaged. The other part that to go back to the human capital piece, I really, when it became an issue, was something that we're really paying attention to. We actually have staff members that are, especially our health teachers, who are really concerned about vaping, that during their preps, they'll even walk by. But it's become, the bathrooms are less and less of a focus of our issue when it comes to the way that they're built. We have 0 fights in our bathrooms because there is no privacy in the bathroom. There's the stalls by themselves and there's a sink, that's it. So supervision-wise, the style of bathrooms is very conducive to us being able to track what's going on without the use of vape detectors. And I wish I had more to say, but Joel's pretty much said it all.
I'm long-winded sometimes.
If they're willing to answer any questions, but I really don't have a whole lot more to say on it.
Again, I just can't thank you enough on the behalf of the commission for you both being here. This is something that we've been tasked with, and it's really important to us to hear actually what it might look like, you know, in a school setting. Commissioner Zucker, did you have?
I was just going to say, I think it's incredible that you guys are leveraging the human capital when we talk about other issues that we are trying to address, when we talk about trusting adults and building relationships with students. These might be opportunities to build relationships and rapport with students, and be able to identify other things that might, you know, be bothersome for these kids, or just building, again, those relationships and continuing to build those relationships. So, and to the point of education, these kids might not know that vaping is bad for them. They see their parents doing it, so they think that it's okay to do it. Their peers are doing it. They might think so, but when an adult that they trust and have a lot of respect for has those conversations with them, I think that that's huge. So I love that you talk about human capital. I love that.
Go ahead, Dr. LaMarca.
I'm sorry to jump in. I had to. I invited these 2 gentlemen to be part of this presentation, mostly because I just love them. These are 2 of our best principals, and some of you know I worked with Tristan for a long time, but I've known Joel ever since he's been in the school district. They do a wonderful job around climate. And the only comment I want to make is I totally respect their opinions. And we do have several schools that have vape detection. And I think if those principals were here, some of whom are very wonderful people as well, They would also talk about some of the benefits that accrue from vape detection. And Joel Dr. Peixoto is exactly right. We are facing a budget deficit, so we have to be very cautious about where we spend our money. I don't think that anything they've said or that the other principals would say is at all inconsistent with where you have been as a commission, and that is vape detection could be one of many strategies in a comprehensive strategy to support students in not using. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because this was not a setup.
On that, I do have a question, Dr. Peixoto, with the, I think you called it the safety committee. What does that look like at Dilworth?
Sure, good question. So we try to pull from the strengths and talents of so many people on campus. Everyone wants to have their opinion stated, and so we devised a committee at the beginning of the school year comprised of administrators, counselors, and some teacher leaders who might have a voice in safety or have ideas for safety, and we meet very regularly, at least monthly, where we'll discuss things like this. So what are the issues that we saw from last year? What are the data points that we're speaking of that we need to discuss for the following year? Vaping, fighting, issues like that come up, and then we talk about what systems do we need to put in place before the school year starts, so then when we're meeting as a staff collectively, who do we need where, what are we training, what things do we need? So we meet regularly to just discuss hot topics, and vaping was certainly one that came up the last couple of years.
That's great. Thank you. I just want to say, as somebody who sees kids for therapy, I have a lot of kids who are afraid to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And, that speaks to some of these issues with the fighting and vaping. So are there other questions or comments from this commission? Sylvia, anything online?
Nope.
Okay, great. I think this is a great addition to our ongoing discussion. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for taking the time.
Yes, thank you. Good to
Doing
see
a
you all.
great job.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Yeah, likewise, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, we have a possible action item here coming up. Yes, 2.06 for presentation, discussion, and possible action to approve or recommend potential revisions to the school district staff regarding the draft of short videos and scripts, which you should have on your desk for you or online, on the following topics: mental health and suicide prevention, gun safety, substance use prevention, and the release of the traffic safety video. And we have Andy Casarini back. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Again, Andy Casaneri, Communications Department for the district. I guess we can start by watching the video. That might be more entertaining than reading the script. So this is the one that we've been working on for mental health. You guys saw the traffic safety one already. This is mental health. The goal when we discussed it last meeting was to have this disseminated in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. So this is the first draft, and if it's approved at this level, then we will go and get it into translated. The traffic one was done in English and Spanish. We would do the same with this one. So if we want to have a look.
We have no audio on this one. Okay, so we can look at the visuals, maybe read the subtitles or read along on our packet. Yeah.
It's not going to be any fun this way.
It looks beautiful. It looks very nice.
It sounds better. Okay, so we went with the outline that we had all sort of worked with and agreed to at the last meeting. It's, of course, very different than the traffic one. It has a different sensibility entirely, and just went through, sort of identifying the problem. Anxiety is the biggest problem our kids are dealing with. Hearing from them, we had one student who wanted to participate in the video. We didn't want to put any young people on the spot or make them regret having participated. The student, the male student in particular, is an advocate, and he wanted to be part of it and may continue to do this sort of work forever. The other one was a written letter, and those are the written words you'll see sort of, this was a letter that a patient from Quest wanted to participate. So we really wanted to use the students' voices that way and get that reality. But we progressed through the outline as we had suggested, identifying the problem, hearing, letting parents know what parents can do, students, what resources are available from peer-to-peer to professional counseling to in-school counseling, everything. And it's not a problem we can resolve, but it hopefully will raise awareness, and then we have the resources at the end.
Beautiful. So I have a question about Omar. I'm curious about how so just as someone who deals in child development, adolescent development quite a bit, I'm curious how he maybe conceptualizes or understands that this lives forever, and that potential employers can see this, that, this can be used, unfortunately, in the day and age we live against him in some sort of way, and if he and his family really understood some of the risks and outweighed the benefits of maybe his own advocacy when deciding to take part in this video.
Yeah, good question. I didn't have an in-depth conversation with him about it, but we did talk about it. And he has advocated, I believe he's even presented in front of the board.
Great.
This is something he had done prior. He's already been on this path. In the video, he talks about being suicidal and that his friends caught him or whatever, and then the journey he's taken afterwards. So the specific questions you're asking, I didn't sit down and have all of them with him, but my understanding, and the counselor that he works closely with at the school, is assured us that he absolutely is on board, and that this is something that is just so important to him that he wants to get in front of it and be out loud.
Okay, yeah, I always just want to make sure when I've got a minor and their mental health that we're really looking at that. Other questions? I think there's one online. So is that right, Sylvia? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner.
This is great. First of all, the work that you did on the traffic safety. You're telling a story, you're engaging, you're making everybody kind of poke their head above the sand and say it's not just them, it's everybody that's affected by all of these things. So I think it's amazing. Same with this video. One of the questions I had is just the Hope Squad. There's an inequity of accessibility to Hope Squad with the district. And so I just want to make sure that we're not saying, oh, Sparks has Hope Squad, but other schools don't have Hope Squad, because there is a financial cost to Hope Squad and having access to Hope Squad. So just I'm not sure that I'm not sure how we put that as a resource if it's not truly a resource for every school. And then in the same context of trying to weave together all of the work that this commission does, we are focusing. There is going to be a focus on training in behavioral or youth mental health. And so could that be a resource? So as family members are watching this, or adults that interact with kids, can we mention training opportunities that are free to the community to be able to give yourself the tools to help a kid in need as well?
Would you envision that as something we listed at the end in the graphic, or worked into the video, that would be sort of narrated in, or just at the end as a call to action?
I guess you're the storyteller, but I mean, there's opportunities within there, because we couldn't hear it, but there could be opportunities within there, but also just as here's training,
right? Yeah. So for parents, for educators, for anybody
in the community to be trained.
Okay, thank you.
And Sarah, we would have to make a motion on that recommendation. Okay. That's okay. Do you want to make a motion on it, Annie?
Well, I guess my question is then, is Hope Squad going to stay? I would like to talk that through because I would just hate to have. Oh. Oh, perfect.
Commissioner Porter's asking, is there opportunity to add to the end screen ways for kids to get involved in the SOS Hope Squad if students are interested? So not just if they need support, but if they want to support.
So that goes to your point, Annie. Also, you're right. It's absolutely true. There's a cost associated with it. It is a national program. Not every school can afford to participate or even has resources. In the video, it's mentioned as an option for peer-to-peer that exists in some of our schools. It doesn't have to be at the end if, in fact, it is not accessible to most of our students. We can make that decision because, absolutely true, it's not in every school, and even the schools that have it may not always have it because there's the financial burden.
So maybe the question is to Catherine: is there a resource that's universal that we can put as a resource there so that every kid would have?
Can we have
something
Catherine
as a
come up for
resource?
this? Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Catherine Loudon, for the record. Actually, so we do have available to our high schools the signs of suicide licenses, so they can use that curriculum. And we do, as a part of our suicide prevention, have embedded in multiple subjects, including health, which is part of the national and state standards, some universal materials. So we could look at that and what universal materials are in place for each site. And then we also could look at some of those other resources that you were referring to, Commissioner Zucker, and make sure that we put some of those at the end as well.
And I was thinking maybe if they're not right at the end of the video, but at least on the landing page where the video is, that in some schools, Hope Squad exists, and kind of differentiating so those resources all are just, again, kind of listed out and really easy for someone to click on. Commissioner Gokuchia?
I'm just curious if the motion can be as vague as changing Hope Squad to more universal referral options and training options from our community.
So is it just to create kind of a list of community resources that is at the discretion of the district staff to create that? I think you can word it like that. Yeah.
Okay, so to be clear, I just want to make sure, are we making a motion to remove any mention of Hope Squad? Are we okay with it mentioned in the video as a peer resource?
I think it's incredible to list it. I just don't want to make it that it's a resource
Universal
and then
for
somebody
everybody.
goes to it and they're like, well, my school can't afford that, or that's not part of.
Right there with 988.
Yeah.
Got it, absolutely, yeah, and do SOS or something like that, more as a universal.
So Commissioner Gokuchia, do you want to make that a motion?
Okay, so I will motion to.
Hold on one second, Sylvia.
Commissioner Flores is asking, due to shifting resources, would there be review and updates over time to the last slide?
That is certainly the easiest slide of all of a video, absolutely, to change. And I would hope, not too many years would progress before a new video would be made, because so many, our kids change and so many things and the demands change. So hopefully this isn't, it's not going to last that long, but the last slide is the easiest to change, absolutely.
So I'll just make a motion for Catherine and her team to take a look at and make recommendations for the resources provided that are universal to all students and families in Washoe County.
Just a little friendly amendment to make, to recommend to Catherine and her team instead of, we just don't want you guys directing them.
I would like to recommend that that the resources are brought to Catherine and her team for review and recommendation that make them more universal and accessible to all of Washoe County.
And then,
And then, so I will motion to take a look at and make recommendations for the resources provided that are universal to all students and families in Washoe County.
just a little friendly amendment to make, to recommend to Catherine and her team instead of, we just don't want you guys directing them.
I would like to recommend that
And with that being said, if that happens and that's a motion, would we then make a motion to then approve as?
I think we would need a secondary one, and then, yeah, are you asking if you would have to come back then for this particular?
We do want to hit that May.
Yeah, no, I think we're okay to, yeah. And before I make that, I'll ask for the second, then I'll ask for public comment. I just got all public comment excited. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Excellent. Is there any public comment on this particular item?
No public comment.
Great. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great. Thank you, Andy.
And then for the motion, you could say, we recommend approval of this video with the added recommendations as part of that approval.
Excellent. Okay, I'll do that. We recommend this video with the added recommendations from the motion that just passed. Is there a second?
A second.
Commissioner Gogochia seconds. Any public comment on this particular item?
No public comment.
Oh, thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks, Andy. Any other comments, questions on this particular video?
No, thank you for that, and we'll move forward with that change and then translating, so that we will have two versions by May and disseminate that. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think we have another video.
So not another video on this one. I attached to your documents would be the script for the substance misuse. This one hasn't been laid out into video form, but I do want to sort of, I don't know if we want to read it out loud or if anyone got a chance to read it. So that this one's, the printed script. And this is for the substance misuse. Want to see if we're on the right track. And then we will lay the video down on this one, and again, would go for a bilingual.
So just as I look at this particular script, again, I realize I might be overprotecting Omar. With substance abuse, I would hate for someone to type into Google substance abuse in his name, and for on a job later on for that to come up. So if he can just do a voiceover on that, I think that would protect him. As we wait for some of the commissioners to finish, I would say something just as a point of discussion and maybe possible action on page 1. Claire, the narrative second from the bottom. I'd be curious about folks' thoughts on adding something to the effect about just where neuroscience and brain research is in terms of adolescents in particular, that if you start the use of a substance as an adolescent, that triggers and perpetuates that you're more likely to become addicted to future substances as you age and you're into adulthood because your brain is still developing. Because I like this last sentence, this is what it's doing to your brain, and maybe that can be expanded upon there. Sylvia, did Commissioner Flores type something, or she's still typing? Okay. No pressure. Are there any other thoughts as we look through this? Okay.
Commissioner Flores is asking if the group finds it helpful to add the legal implications of vaping THC. I can share some data and info.
Great. So far we have a recommendation to add some of the long-term effects in terms of brain development, moving into adulthood, and some of the legal issues that can come from substance use. Would someone like to put that into a motion?
I just had a quick question. So is there any resources for that students can use to get off of vaping? Or
So you're right, this is missing the last slide, which would have the call to action resource page, and we can put any that you recommend, or, 3 big ones, and then say for more, something like that, because there are, of course, addiction and all sort of treatments out there.
I think we would defer again to Catherine's office and Commissioner Gokuchia?
Just to clarify, do we want to add legal implications
Yeah, I think so.
and neuroscience?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I move that we accept the script with some amendments for statements about neuroscience and legal implications, as well as a resource slide.
Do we have a second?
I have a comment. I'm sorry. As I was
Excellent.
reading
Yeah.
through, and I wanted to ensure, at least from what I read through, and I could be mistaken, there is a part, I think, first page where Katie Baker talks about kids have died because of drugs being laced with other substances. I think this is in my personal opinion and expertise, an opportunity to mention the epidemic that is fentanyl, specifically not only locally but nationwide. I think when we talk about other substances, I think we could be very specific, because I think we're doing a great job. Well, great by the definition of getting the word out there. Of we can include a substance such as fentanyl, because there's a conversation around it. And I think if we identify it, the children are more likely to understand it rather than keeping it vague. So I would request a friendly amendment to be specific in other substances such as fentanyl to really identify the risks with children.
Commissioner Gokuchia, do you accept the friendly amendment?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Andy. These are great.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That moves us on to our closing item, 3.01. This is a chance for public comment. And it looks like we have some exciting.
We do have public comment from Yazini Arun Prakash and from Maya Zankowski.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for being here, and I just want to give you guys a reminder that it's 3 minutes. Because it looks like you really worked very hard, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could each do your own individual one for 3 minutes, and maybe 6 minutes altogether.
Okay, yeah, I think we could opt for that because I think we do have like sections that we both split up, so I think we can kind of just do 3 minutes and 3 minutes. And it's okay if we fall under time, right?
Oh,
Okay,
for
perfect.
sure.
Okay.
And the commission can always, yeah. The commission can always invite you back.
Okay,
Too, so
awesome.
this could be a preview.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll begin. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Yalni Arun Prakash, and this is Maya Zakowski, and we are from the Reno Youth City Council. We are here to propose an initiative that we believe can truly transform the lives of many students battling mental health issues. Our goal is to have all Washoe County School District teachers, primarily middle school and high school teachers, to go through training and be equipped with a Be There certificate. Okay, so what is the Be There certificate? Well, this is an online course designed to educate anyone on how to effectively support someone facing mental health challenges. It covers how to recognize warning signs. It offers practical frameworks for providing meaningful support and emphasizes the importance of self-care for both the supporter and the person in need. By the end of the course, ultimately, participants gain a clear understanding of how to navigate the often delicate process of helping someone who is struggling. While many people have good intentions, common methods of offering support can unintentionally do more harm than good. This course highlights those subtle distinctions and teaches the most effective ways to truly be there for someone in need. And I would also like to add that this course is free and takes 2 hours. So why is mental health important to students? Well, the mental health crisis among students is a growing concern, and suicide has become the third leading cause of death among teens and young adults. Students with poor mental health issues can also struggle to find success in school, as it can negatively impact academic performance. And despite the severity of these issues, over 60% of students struggling with mental health challenges do not receive the support they need. Stigma is huge, and it often prevents them from seeking help, making it crucial to create a school environment where mental health is openly discussed and addressed.
Hi, Maya for the record. We have some mental health statistics, and here's some facts about mental health students. Depression and anxiety have increased by 40% in the last decade. 1 in 7 students experience a mental health disorder. 42% of teens experience persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness, and 22% of teens have seriously considered attempting suicide. So what about Washoe County? Mental health remains a significant concern in Washoe County, reflecting trends seen across the U.S. According to a 2022 to 2023 survey conducted by the Washoe County School District, rates of bullying have worsened compared to the previous years, highlighting the growing challenges students face in maintaining their well-being. And I have additional data. 52% of students report incidents of bullying at their school. Okay, 22% of students do not feel safe at school, and 23% of high school students do not believe that their teachers care about them. So why the Be There certificate? Why the Be There certificate matters for teachers and counselors to take is because it empowers teachers to confidently talk to and support students facing mental health challenges. And teachers see students daily and are often the first people to notice when students are struggling. It also provides practical tools and frameworks for approaching sensitive conversations with empathy. It helps build stronger student-teacher relationships based on trust and support. It encourages a school culture where mental health is openly acknowledged and addressed. And the Be There certificate signals to students that you are a safe, trustworthy person they can turn to when they need to talk about their mental health, and opens up a dialogue. And it kind of got lost through the presentation, but you can access the information through BeThereCertificate.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your time, and we really hope that you guys can support us with this initiative.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Excellent presentation, and I'm thrilled about the citations in particular. So thank you both. With that, I'll make an announcement for our next meeting, unless there's more public comment, Sylvia.
There is no other public comment.
Okay, great. Our next meeting will be June 2nd. As you know, we have moved to this every other month thing, so I really want to thank commissioners for coming and making sure that they're here for these meetings, because we do, I think, get a lot done during this time. So thank you again for being here. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 3:53. Thank you.